All right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be a great podcast today. I am joined by the world champion, Alesha Zappitella, Invicta Fighting Championships, atomweight world champion. She's been on the podcast before, but this is going to be the first time ever she's sitting in the chair as the world champ. Right before we get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties transitioning from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. To reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, I want to introduce, again, the world champion, Alesha Zappitella. Alesha, I feel like everybody knows you at this point. I mean, if you don't know who Alesha Zappitella is, just Google her, do some research, do your homework. She is the #1 atomweight in the United States of America. She is taking on the #1 Brazilian girl on May 21st on Access Television. It's going to be the first time your fight is televised live. There's no UFC Fight Pass here. We're talking you're going to be seen by millions of viewers around the world doing what you love. So thank you for coming on the show again. And let's just kick it off with, girl, tell me how you're feeling 1 week out.
First of all, thank you for having me, and I feel phenomenal. This fight camp has been so long, and for it to finally be here is just so exciting. And to be on the first show on Access, this is going to be the biggest show that Invicta ever puts on. And even though I still have to do the hardest part, the weight cut's still coming, it's all right. I am just excited.
100%. So your co-main event, and anyone with cable is going to be able to watch. Let's get the boring questions out of the way first. Give us your thoughts on your opponent. You know what I mean? That's something that fans always need to know. They need to find out these things, and then I want to dig more into like you as a person in your life. But what do you think about Jessica Del Boni as an opponent in this matchup?
Okay, so honestly, I think that Jessica brings to the table things that I've already seen in other opponents. She's a boxer, she's a brown belt, and she has a lot of heart. I've beat girls who have all of the above. And I know that she's going to come out, and I know that she's going to give it everything that she has. But I know that I'm better than her. I know that I bring things to the table that no other woman on this planet can bring to the table. So I'm the problem that has to be solved.
So I want to talk about a little bit of reflection here, because last time we sat down, you were going for the world title, and that was your ultimate goal at one point in time. And goals change over time. Initially, you were like, maybe I can be a professional fighter. And then it was like, maybe I can be, the best professional fighter. I can win the world title. Now you are the world champion with the bullseye on your back. Talk about how have you shifted your goals? What still motivates you, inspires you? Talk about what you want to become at this point, because to most people, you've reached the ultimate goal of success. These young women that are going to be coming up in MMA, a lot of the girls you train on the mat, they look up and they go that's the world champion. I need to earn that one day. And yet you're yeah, I'm the world champ, but now I'm going on to bigger and better things. So talk about how your life or your psychology changed after you won that title. You can talk about that experience. If you can recall what it was like to be in the ring that night when that belt got put around your waist, you just freely talk, because we're going to capture some gold on this.
Okay. So, actually, a little bit of background. I was going through some old notebooks from when I was in college, and on every other corner of the page was written, Alesha Zappitella, Invicta FC, atomweight world champion. This has been in the making. This has been my dream for years now. And flying out to my last fight felt so surreal. When I got the call, it didn't feel like it was real. It didn't really hit me what I had just done until I was interviewing, until after my last fight. Once the tears started rolling in my interview, I realized what I just did. And so I took a month off of fighting. I went to travel half the country, collect myself, and find my bigger goals. And I think that it's always important to keep setting bigger dreams, so this way I'm constantly striving for things that nobody has ever done before. It was brought to my attention before I even won the title that there's never been a champ in Invicta. So that is now the new goal. There's never been an Invicta champion who has brought over a champion from Ryzen. And that is my goal. I want to bring her into my cage, and I want to prove that I'm the best in the world. I want to fight her on my home turf. And
So really, I mean, you're just interested in being a trendsetter now. You want to get into the record books. You want to show, listen, I'm not just great, because like a lot of people have been great. There's been multiple world champions. I am going to be the greatest.
yes.
I'm going to be the greatest.
Yep. I will be the female Habib. That is my goal. You know, a lot of people are telling me that I have 10 years left in this because I'm only 26, but I've been doing martial arts for 21 years. I want to go out and I want to set some records. I want to prove that I'm the best, and then get onto other stages with my life. I want to get onto the other side of the game. I would like to commentate. I would like to broadcast and be an interviewer. Specifically for Invicta, people are always bringing up the UFC to me, but with this new access deal and with the faith that I have in Shannon, I don't even care about the UFC at this point. Invicta is where it is at for all of women in UFC, and specifically girls that are my size. Growing up, there wasn't many avenues for women like me. There were a lot of jobs that I liked or that were very appealing to me that I was told would never be suitable for a girl of my size. And now, being in literally the toughest profession that I can be in, and to have a home, it means the world to me. And to have a boss that cares about me so much it means so much more than any deal would mean, that any six-figure deal overseas.
Well, I can tell you right now, I mean, anyone that has followed Alesha's career, do yourself a favor. Go back and look at how she was on interviews initially. Look at how she was in front of the camera. Look at her presence just as a person. And now look at the young woman that is sitting across from me today. She radiates that presence. She's very articulate. She's able to speak in a way that conveys emotion, and she can draw information out of a subject. So you're built for doing these things, and like you have a look, you know what I mean? And that's another part of broadcasting. So really, if the bosses were going to make a checklist and go like, should we hire Alesha Zappitella to be one of our color commentators or a face of Invicta? Let's run through the list real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Is she talented at her sport? Well, she's the world champion, actually. She's the number one person. She has the gold belt. Okay, put a check in that box. Does she look the part? She does. She can be in front of the camera. She enjoys the spotlight. She likes the challenge. Check that box. Go down the list. Is she articulate? Can she interview a wide variety of guests? Can she put herself on the line? Is she willing to adapt and overcome? Well, look at her track record. Every time she's faced challenge or adversity, she's come back so much better, like the story of the Phoenix. Like you burn yourself to the ashes, you arise anew. And a lot of times you see the Phoenix artwork tied to the Invicta. Right on that belt, there's a giant Phoenix. So I had to throw that in there.
Definitely.
But with this all being said, like in my opinion, it's a duh.
Yeah,
Like,
thank you.
I'm not the one that's going to make that call, but like if you watch this interview, it's a duh, right? You have a 26-year-old woman that's on top of the world that wants to be in your organization. I think the answer is yes.
Thank you.
So let's capture a little bit of everything. So some things we've never talked about in the interview. Let's talk about the first time you and I ever met. Like, how did you end up here? Why are you sitting in this chair? You know what I mean? Because you posted about it online today, and I go, you know what? Most people probably don't know that. So you were already a little bit into MMA, and you came from your wrestling background. Yeah. Let's tell the story of like how we met, because I remember our first conversation. I came up to you and said something that many people might have been like, oh, that's, yeah, right, maybe. Let's tell that.
Okay, so the first time I met James Gray was after my amateur debut. I went out and I fought a girl who was 5-1, and I didn't have anything other than wrestling, and I wanted to fight. I got in there and I literally beat the brakes off this girl. She tried to armbar me, and I picked her up like to my head and I slammed her down like 4 different times in this fight. And James walked up to me after my fight, and he told me that I have what it takes to be a world champion. Now, fast forward to my second fight. I fought a girl who had already signed her pro contract. For whatever reason, it fell through, and she was going to take one more fight. And so she took a fight against me. I was beating her so bad, and then I got subbed. I found out that where she learned this sub was from James Gray, from one clinic that he had put on. So I knew that if I was going to get where I needed to be, I needed to switch gyms. I came out here, and from the first practice that I took at SFS, I knew that this was going to be my home.
So if anyone's a Marvel fan, like I'm a big fan of Marvel, you might be wondering why I'm bringing this up. But in the movie The Avengers, at one point, the Hulk captures Loki, ends up one-on-one in a battle, and basically just smashes him repeatedly into the floor. That's kind of how I remember that debut. I remember at one point, I'm watching this fight with Brian. I'm standing next to him, and I go, oh my God, do you see forget the technique, forget how you were punching, the spirit that showed up in the ring that night, that was, you walked out there like a little tank and was like, I don't care what you try to do, I'm going to smash you. And that spirit was infectious to me. I went, that right there is the energy that an elite fighter has to have. That right there, if I could capture that essence and I could put that into someone that understands the fight game, they're going to be a world champion. And literally, like, watch the video, seeing you Donkey Kong someone that was 5-1 who was good. Elaine Santiago was good. She was known around Michigan. She was submitting a lot of girls, and she was extremely tough. And you took the fight to her. So instantly I knew, like, okay, that's something special, because you can train to be a fighter, to be a martial artist, to develop your skills, to throw a jab, to do a takedown. But somewhere deep in your being, there has to be the burning fire to overcome all obstacle, like no matter whatever debris is thrown on your fire from life, that fire has to rage through the debris to get you to your goals.
That fire is actually exactly why I started fighting. I'll be honest, when I started fighting, I was not in a mentally good place. I was pissed at the world. I had something to prove. I had to prove that I was going to make it. And moving from wrestling, where I knew that I was going to be I could have gotten gold in the Olympics if I had tried hard enough. But my heart wasn't with it with wrestling anymore. And I was mad at the world. I wanted to prove a point, and I went out there and I just beat the shit out of her. And if I'm being honest, it felt really good. And since then, I've grown so much as a person, mentally and physically, and that's not what fighting's about for me anymore.
So you had to redefine that energy, because in the beginning it was a chip on your shoulder, and it was that fire. And then all of a sudden you start finding a little bit more peace in your life, and a little peace within yourself, and some love for yourself and love for this life. And now you got to reshape, and you had to turn it about legacy and being great and ascending the level that you even thought possible, right? And that's an amazing journey. That right there is what life is supposed to be. It's just rarely that.
Yeah.
Do you remember, in particular, any of the things that really sparked that flame? I feel like we should capture that. Like, because you were obviously carrying a certain burden. Do you remember where that flame came from? Because, I mean, it produced an extremely successful woman that's, the world champion. Do you remember what was behind that fire?
I remember exactly what was behind that fire. So I realized that college wasn't for me. And there was no way that I was going to get through it. It's not how I learn. It's not my path in life. I realized that I had other paths. And I had several coaches who were very big in the wrestling world tell me that I was going to be nothing in life, that I was going to drop out of college, and I was going to fail. And I went out there and proved that I'm not going to fail.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, they tried to tell you that you weren't enough.
Yeah, and what's funny is when we went down to the Olympic trials, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, because I knew that these coaches that said these things to me, one was wrestling in my bracket. I didn't get to wrestle her, but the other one coached several girls in my bracket. I got to go out there, and I teched and I tech pinned those girls that I was wrestling with in that room. And I got to prove to that coach that he's wrong.
That's some major reflection, Mr. Coach, that's being called out in this story, because you looked at a woman and said, this is your potential. You tried to define somebody by your standards of what you thought would be success, and you were far from accurate. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll extend an olive branch. Their goal by that conversation was to try to well, if she sticks with wrestling, she can maybe win that Olympic gold medal. But still, the way you present things to life can really be, you know what I mean? You can stick a dagger in someone that you're trying to help. You got to be very careful. Yep. But the woman that has endured what you went through is now sitting here world champion. So that's one of the best things about life. It's this wild roller coaster, and you got to go through these super down periods, these depressions, and these up and down. But once you start really becoming what you're meant to be, and when you start conquering life, you actually are thankful for every one of those, because you would not be who you are today.
Definitely. Every single time that any coach has ever matched me with that sort of energy, I've become exactly who I'm supposed to be. Go back to 5th grade. I had a softball coach that told me that I needed to quit wrestling because I needed to dive into a girl's sport and do something that was going to get me somewhere in life. You know what I did? I quit softball and I started wrestling all year round.
So it sounds like actually what you need in your life is some haters. It sounds like if Alesha's a superhero, she's got a superhero costume that you're all going to see for this fight. If she's a superhero, she's fueled by haters. For every person that tries to knock this girl down, she levels up and smashes their expectations. You know what I mean? And it's I'm sorry to disappoint you, Alesha. I've been trying to believe in you from day one. Eventually, I need just to be like, Alesha, fuck off. You're just be like, oh yeah, well now I'm going to be the most successful person that's ever lived. But it really is. There's a lot to be taken from that, from young people that are going to be told, because it's going to happen throughout your life. You're going to be told what you can't do. Yep. And it's a lot of times it comes from people that you care about. A lot of times it comes from family members or coaches or people that their opinion holds weight. Yeah. But we got to remember is you define your potential, not their words. Yeah,
exactly. I've been told since I was 5 years old that I shouldn't be taking this path. I think I spoke on this before, but I had dads telling their little boys to hurt me when I was 5 just to prove that I shouldn't be wrestling. And it's kind of something that I've just had to overcome my entire life, and I'm completely okay with it.
So literally, I mean, you take everything that would cripple most people and you level up. Yeah. It's your personality trait.
Oh, it completely is, because then I lost 2 fights in a row, and I took those fights, and I became a better me than I ever was. I'm so mentally sound, and I turned it into a world championship.
100%. I mean, those were the first 2 losses we took in a row as a pro, and it hurt. I remember how bad it hurt, and we had to kind of live in that hurt for a little bit, but we knew that hurt wouldn't always be there. Correct. Even in our conversations where we were both kind of down about things, we knew that it was a temporary state. And if we could fix the little tweaks that were needed, you would still get to where you wanted to be. Correct. So now you're going into this one as the girl. You know what I mean? All eyes on you type deal. Did the pressure change at all? Did it alleviate any? Does it feel about the same? In a mental state, how do you feel going in with you being the girl?
I think that it kind of alleviated some pressure from me, because the target's on my back. And I kind of always feel like the target's been on my back, though. I've always been the girl that presents problems that other people don't really know how to solve. But now I'm not chasing anything. I just have to be the best me that steps in the cage. I'm already the best. If I keep showing up better than the me that was in the cage last time and more evolved as a mixed martial artist, I'm going to beat any woman who steps across the cage for me.
So really, it might have validated that last little bit of insecurity or fear that was trying to live in your brain, telling you you're not good enough. It might have validated those things and said, hey, you are good enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? It might have validated you, not those things. It might have told you, hey, I have what it takes to be the best in the world. You know, I belong having that belt. Yeah. That's my belt.
I think that more than anything, it didn't even just validate that with mixed martial arts that I'm worthy. Before my title fight, I sat down and I journaled 7 pages, and I came to the conclusion that I'm afraid of being successful. So when I won that belt, it proved to myself that I'm worthy of everything that I ever want to have in this life. And now I am chasing down everything without a fear in the world, and I know I can have it.
Okay, this is what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Let me break down in layman's terms if you didn't understand what she just said. She had an identity her entire life that was the woman with something to prove. And that's how she lived her life. She lived her life as, I am fueled by showing this world that I am more than what it sees. And when something is your identity, especially for a lifetime, what it takes to change that and step into the new identity of not seeking that validation, knowing that you belong. That is an incredible thing. That is an incredible journey. And that is something that I think less than 1% of all human beings on earth, usually when someone deeply attaches to an identity, whether it's a belief system or regardless of what it is, you protect that identity at all costs, because otherwise, if you get rid of that and you don't know what's out there, it's a terrifying world. Because who am I? What am I? Am I okay? This thing going to be all right? You know what I mean? It's a crazy world.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, for the viewers that didn't know about your retreat.
Okay.
You went for 48 hours into the woods and fasted and just, well, I don't want to give it anything. Tell me about that experience, because you do some things different than most people. But if you want to be number one, you have to. Otherwise, it's everyone else number one. So talk about a little bit about, what inspired you to do that. Had you done it previously? And then, just what you pulled from that time.
Okay. So going into this fight camp, I went out into the woods for 48 hours. I had a journal of questions that I needed to answer for myself. So I do this anytime that I feel like I'm going through some sort of big change, or maybe my mood isn't where it should be, or something inside of me is telling me that I need to get away and I need to solve problems within myself. Overcoming obstacles is something that I'm phenomenal at. I go out into the woods for literally 48 hours. I don't have food. I just drink water. It helps me get into a better mindset to better identify everything within me and look at things that most people don't have the courage to look at. Most people, they try to hide and run from the problems in life. I go towards those problems, and I want to solve every single one of them, and I want to become the best me. I want to put to rest absolutely any trauma or any baggage that might be weighing me down. And I know that if I'm going to go into a fight and going into a weight cut, literally anything that is weighing me down is going to come up then. So I'm going to put it to rest before I even get into the hard parts of fight camp. And then I guess I kind of did that after my title fight too, because it doesn't get talked about a lot, but the depression that comes after a fight is absolutely huge. There's this huge buildup, and then afterwards it's like, all right, I did this, now what? Like, my strict schedule, it's not there anymore. I don't have this goal that I've been striving for the past 6 weeks, and this fight camp has been 12 weeks long. So I go out with a journal. I journal about anything that comes up in my mind. I figure out some questions, and I figure out the next steps in my life.
That's amazing, Alesha. That's something that if more people in our society did, I think we would have a healthier psychology across society, and we'd have a better world.
Thank you.
Like, a lot of people think they can't change the world, but the world changes by us just being better, and then life responds.
Yeah. I actually have gotten a lot of questions about what I do out there, and a lot of people commending me for the hard work, and like, this is something that they wish they could do, which has really opened my eyes that like one day I could own my own retreat where I send people out and I put them through these vision quests. Even though it's only 48 hours, some people do it for longer, but like, you can really solve a lot of your life problems in a short amount of time, just isolating yourself.
Think about this if you're listening. When's the last time you took 48 hours to completely detach from your responsibilities, from your phone, from entertainment, from eating? I mean, from all the things that might give you comfort or joy or distraction. Take all of those things out of your life and really look at, who am I? What am I? What state am I in? I bet you 99% of people listening, they're just in the cycle. Like, whether you want to call it the rat race or whatever it is, it's designed to keep you from doing that.
Yep.
They don't want you to look inward because you might fix shit. And then if you fix shit, you might look outward and go, you know what? A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. A lot of this stuff isn't working for me. I'm going to change it. I mean, we almost need to show, we need leaders like yourself that have achieved some form of greatness to show other people that, like, it's not coming from your television.
Yep.
It's
Correct.
not coming from the people that you might think are idols.
Correct. And what's funny that you say that is I don't have TV. I don't have a TV in my bedroom. I watch TV maybe like one episode at night with my dinner, and that's what I do. I like to try to spend my time reading and journaling and just really getting to the bottom of myself and what's going to make me a better person and how I'm going to change the world by just being me.
And then how much better is your life when you do that?
It's phenomenal. Ever since I've tried to really detach from everything within the world that is bogging everybody down, especially this past year, you could really have become so depressed and just so anxiety-ridden with all of the stuff that is going on in our culture. So I've become so much more enlightened by literally just having nothing to do with it, because at the end of the day, I can't change what the big names and the big figures are doing. I can change me, and I can help change the world around me and the followers that I have.
And you just said a piece of gold right there. You don't have to play into it. You don't have to listen. This television is screaming, be afraid, be terrified, hate these people. And you're just not paying attention. Hey, do your own thing. It's a circus. You guys do your thing because I'm not paying attention. It's funny. We have that similarity. I haven't had cable since I was in my 20s. I was considered weird. People were like, dude, you don't watch any TV? You don't. There was one point in time, this is before you joined the academy, I disconnected my cell phone. I canceled my cell phone plan for 1 year. You could only get a hold of James Gray if you knew where I was going to be and you spoke to me in person. Or if you messaged me online, and then when I decide to sit down and check on my computer, I will message you back. Because, like, I knew that, listen, this world is designed to keep you just in the cycle, and I need to break free from that.
That is awesome. I actually go through cycles, which you have experienced because I don't message you back for days, where I literally I detach from my phone. I don't get on my phone. I don't message anybody back. I've lost a sponsor because I did that, but honestly, were they meant to be there? If they can't handle the fact that I need some me time, I need to be out of the world, probably not.
And that's what your mental health needs. And I've always given you grace in the fact that, like, I'll reach out and say, hey, I sent you a thing 3 days ago. What's up? And you're like, you know what? To be honest with you, I was going through a little bit of a hard time. And what have I always said? You know what? I appreciate the honesty. If there's anything I can do, let me know. But, like, I know that, like, you need to go through those journeys. I don't need to then stack on guilt to, like, well, now I'm delayed in doing A, B, or C because you're trying to be better, which will then provide better energy, which then takes us both towards better goals.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, like,
Definitely.
a lot of society is so quick to, like, imagine if you're just a minimum wage employee that has a horrific day, your grandfather just passed away, and you're terrified to call out of work because your boss is going to treat you like shit. We gotta restructure this stuff, man. This is just so unhealthy, the way that people live, instead of compassion, instead of understanding. Like, you've never gone through a period where you need to disconnect and you need to go, hey, you know what? I need to take a step back right now from even my friends, from the people that I love. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes during the day here, I'll be so busy working that I will literally go into the dorm, shut every light off, lay down with my back on the floor, and just let my mind clear out for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I need that to
Completely.
continue to being as efficient as I am
yeah.
to make sure that everything gets handled.
Yeah, I mean, you have to disconnect from everything. I know we talked about this, but I started doing like the float tanks, and that's my little like 1 hour getaway from the world, and it's been so life-changing.
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to reveal this on the podcast. Within 1 year, a sensory deprivation tank will be in this academy. I'm telling you, if you don't know what a float tank is or a sensory deprivation tank, you can look into it. Basically, you float in Epsom salt in body temperature water. It's quiet. It's dark. And so it's depriving so many senses that you're able to like kind of just disconnect. And if you're good with your mind, you're able to observe. And if you can observe, you can then find patterns. You can find unhealthy, traits of yourself, and you can begin to work on those. I will 100% not only have one, like people on SFS Elite, I'll be like, Spencer, I don't care. You're getting in the tank. And I'm locking the door until you finish your session.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. That makes me so happy because that is pretty game changing. I like the first time that I did one, like the first 10 minutes, I had a little bit of a hard time, and then I got the feel for what it was, and I'm like, this is the most relaxing thing ever.
It really is incredible. I was consciousness experiencing
Yes.
itself subjectively, floating in the universe, observing who I am as an essence.
Yeah.
As silly as that sounds, I came up, I tell everybody this story. I got to the point where I realized that like all I am is what I believe myself to be. And the second that sentence became so true at a core level that anything I want in this life, if there's a fear that's holding me back, if I change that fear or limiting belief, that is then within my grasp.
Yes. Oh, completely. That is so true. That is rules that I like to live by.
100%. So let's talk about Alesha's personal life, Alesha's routines. Has anything really changed? Let's talk about life, you could say as a fighter, what you do, do you give yourself any personal time beyond just your work within your mind and your training to just like be a young girl that's still figuring life out? Like just talk about disconnect from fighting for a moment and from the like trying to reach ascension, right? Like what else is Alesha Zappitella for the fans that may not get to see that side? I know you're a one bite challenge girl.
Yes.
Have you subscribed to her yet on YouTube? Have you done it? Because like you have a lot of other things, you know what I mean? Let's talk about those things.
Okay, so I've actually been told that I need to have more fun because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm always trying to learn, and I'm always trying to reach higher levels of consciousness within my own being and just become a better me. So I spend a lot of my time reading. Most people don't know this, but I write a lot of poetry. I'm actually in the process of writing a poetry book. Actually, it's going to be 2 different books because I have some books that are just poems that are about life, and then poems that are about the fight game, like the mental side of it. So that one's more going to be like a warrior one. And then other than that, I'm a painter. I actually sell a lot of my paintings. I do some abstract art, and I do a lot of food challenges on my YouTube channel. Realistically, I'm just a fun spirit, and I like to put out into the universe exactly who I am. I'm an ever-changing person, and there isn't one thing that really defines me. I'm an artist, really, just at the core, every single meaning of it.
I think you can see it when you perform too. Like whether it was Olympic trials when you were walking on stage, or it's MMA fight, or it's a jiu-jitsu tournament, you walk out there as the artist that's about to go show her craft to the world. You're not like you exude that energy. You know what I mean? And you can see that. And throughout history, there's been like a famous title called like a warrior poet, which symbolizes the idea of like intellectual mastery and physical mastery, like the ability to, like the Greeks and the Spartans, and they worshipped that idea that like you strengthen not only the mind but the body, and you're like a modern day version of that because most of life is very soft.
Oh, completely. Yeah, and I've been reading about samurais a lot, and one of the samurai codes is that a samurai who they should be informed. If they're in time of war, there's no need for them to be learning intellectual stuff. But if there's no war going on, they need to be learning the intellectual stuff, because if not, then that's wasted life and that's wasted talent. So yeah,
we can actually pull so much inspiration and motivation from like ancient texts, from ancient things like the Bushido Code. I remember I was a young kid, man. I'm in my early 20s and I'm reading it and I'm going like, wow, can you imagine a society where these 7 tenets, these 7 characteristics and traits were worshipped, and we really cared about honor and servitude and these things that everybody talks about like they're these amazing characteristics, but most people don't hold them to those standards at all, or they can't admit when they're straying very far from what they really know that they should be. Like Joe Rogan said it really well. He said like, you have to be the hero of your own story. The idea of that is like if you were constantly monitoring yourself as a human being, you would go like, you know what, my honesty was lacking here, my strength was lacking here, my gratitude was lacking here, and you would work on that, right? So you can actually pull a lot of information from things that most people, nowadays would never. That's old stuff. But we've come a long way. We've come a long way technologically.
Yes.
But psychologically, it could be argued that we've actually regressed. We've actually gone backwards.
I believe that we've gone backwards a lot in the mental aspect. And it's funny that you bring up the Bushido code, because I'm actually reading the Code of the Samurai right now. So it's been very helpful. And what I've realized is that a lot of these codes were actually ingrained in me as a young child. So it's kind of been my life.
I believe good mentors teach these things regardless of whether they've studied Bushido or whether they've, looked into these cultures or not. We understand almost from a very young age, if we're brought in any type of morality, we understand what's right and wrong. I believe that most children, as long as they're guided to some degree, can decipher right from wrong.
Yeah.
It's just somewhere along the lines, especially when greed and corruption and money come into play and power and influence, you start straying from what you damn well know. If you went back to the 8-year-old version of yourself and said, you will backstab your best friend and a family member and this, but you will gain influence and money, the child would say, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
So
Correct.
the more you detach from the spirit of who you are, the more that I believe your psychology eats you alive.
Yes, I agree. And what I've been coming back to is that little me would be so proud of absolutely everything that I have going on in my life right now, everything that I've become and everything that I stand for.
So how light of a feeling is that? How wonderful of a feeling to go like, did I grow up into someone that I'm extremely proud of that is smashing my goals? Most people don't do that, I to be honest. Or they're only living to a fraction of their potential.
Yep. It feels phenomenal. I am so proud of the person that I've worked so hard to become. There are old versions of me that I'm not the most proud of, but I had to be that woman at some point in order to get to the woman that I am today.
That's the journey. That's the beauty in the journey. Like I'm going to cite another quote. Les Brown says, what you become in the process is more important than the dream. It's not just the end goal. It's the type of person that you become, truly pursuing your personal legend, if you wanted to quote The Alchemist. When you pursue greatness, greatness comes out of you.
Yes.
You find it.
Yep.
Right? But you have to disconnect from all the bullshit. You have to sometimes cut relationships out of your life for people that are very close to you. And what you'll find is and you probably would agree with me on this point now, that when you start becoming happy and successful and fulfilled, you want to only see that in other people. You don't want to see people struggle. You don't want to see people suffer. Yep. But you also have to be honest that, especially while you're on the journey, while you're on, and life is the journey, okay? It's never going to stop. You're always going to be on the journey. But while you're on the journey, you might have to look at someone else that's very close to you and say, unfortunately, right now, we are so far apart in frequency that I can't be this close to you, or I can only aid from afar, or when you need someone to give you some advice, I'll provide it, but I have to be separate from it.
Completely.
A lot of people can't do that. There's a codependency problem in this country, and there's a feeling of people need to feel like they're going to be saved. It's really, you and I would tell people the key, the information, it's you.
I have lost so many. I've ended so many relationships, so many friendships that just were not good for me. And just because I want to see somebody else shine isn't enough to keep them in my life. If they're lowering my vibration or they're taking away from my light, then I can't have them in my life. And what's funny is I realized the other day, I used to have a very, very small circle because there was only a very select few people who I trusted enough or that could actually raise my vibration or who were actually good for me. And what's wild is with the amount that I have let go of so many people that just weren't good for me, the good people have been piling in. I now have such a community of people that I know that I can trust and I can lean on.
Think about it this way. We always say you attract what you are. You when you radiate a certain energy. It has magnetism. People that want to be successful are drawn to me.
Yes.
I radiate energy that says you have potential because I'm a man that used his potential to become successful. So other people go, wow, maybe I have potential. So when you raise your frequency, other people go like, your vibe is your tribe, or however you want to say it. It doesn't matter. It's the same meaning. It's that you naturally attract those. Winners want to be around winners.
Yeah, and it's wild because the amount of young blood that we have coming up that has so much potential. Like, we are attracting literally the next generation of killers. Boys, like the men and the women that are coming up, are gonna be so phenomenal.
Listen, me and Alesha know. You don't know. If you're listening to this podcast and you think like, yeah, you have no idea the energy and the people and the potential that is in this building right now. I almost want to keep it a secret. I'm like, no, nothing's going on over here. Like, we don't even advertise. I'm just like, yeah, no, nothing's going on over here, because we are going to be the epicenter of a next generation takeover. Like when Spencer Filarski just did that debut, I'm going to shout him out in particular, against a kid from Rufus Sport with more than double his training length, who trains with, Sergio Pettis every day, who's a G. This kid, when I looked at him on tape, I go, wow, he's a great striker. He knows how to grapple. He's in phenomenal shape. He's got, but then I looked at Spencer and I went, but Spencer will beat him.
Yeah.
And it's because of what we see in this building. We've raised the bar so high and the standards that now it is attracting those human beings.
Completely.
And you and I bet you we're going to coach a world champion one day. Like, you and I will be sitting in a corner to one of these young girls, and when they win a world title, we'll be laughing, pulling up this podcast, go, we knew that. We knew that way ahead of time. You know what I mean? It's like we didn't want to broadcast it to the world yet because it was our best kept secret.
Yep.
100%. It's because when you achieve greatness, you can also inspire others to do the exact same.
I truly believe that. And it also helps, like, I can see the greatness in others. Now that I accept that there's greatness within me, I can see the potential that all of these other young blood have.
Well, when you're young and angry and frustrated and not pursuing your greatness intimidates you. And you actually hate it. A lot of times you're envious of it, or you're jealous of it, or there's this power struggle because you want to bring it out of you so bad. But when you see it in other people, it makes you feel lesser because you're identifying greatness. You know that you are capable of that greatness, so it's intimidating.
Yeah.
But when you get to the other side and you start stepping into your power, like, I need validation from no one on this earth. I don't care if you think James Gray is the greatest person or the worst person, the greatest coach or the worst. I don't need your acceptance. When you step into that, because you've seized potential, when you look at other human beings, you go, you have the same potential and you can do it.
Oh, completely.
You know what I mean? And one thing I want to touch on, because I feel like so many people are held back by others in their life. While Alesha was talking to me, a metaphor came into my mind. It'd be like if you wanted to climb Mount Everest. A car is a phenomenal tool. But if you pulled up to that Mount Everest with your car, you have a desktop computer, you have food, you have your baggage, you have all these different things, you have a suit and tie, you have all these things. These are all great things. A car's a great thing. Suit and tie is a great thing, right? These are powerful things.
Yeah.
You pull up to Mount Everest, you're not driving the car to the top. So now all of a sudden, even though it's a car and it's useful, and you might even appreciate the car, it doesn't matter if it's a Rolls Royce or if it's a Dodge Neon, it's not getting to the top of Mount Everest. So what do you have to do? You have to walk away from that car. And now you might have your computer in there that, like, you love your computer. It gives you information. It can answer questions for you, but you're not carrying a desktop to the top of Mount Everest. So what do? You leave that behind, and you start looking at the essentials, and you start looking at things that directly you need sustenance, you need food. So you have to take a little bit of that. You have to take liquids. You have to take something to keep you warm. That is your small circle. Those are the things that are absolutely necessary for you to get to your goal. Once you've climbed Mount Everest, you'll enjoy that car in all of its beauty, and you'll enjoy every part about that car. And you won't need the car, but you might want the car. Yeah. So it's like you have to look at people in your life that way. You have to look at people as, even if, like, because a lot, in my opinion, all good people with a good heart, they want to see the good in people. So then you want to give them a second chance and a 700th chance. And the next thing you know, you're going like, God damn, this person, I know they're bad for my life, but I just care about them. You've got to be willing to set those things aside, even if they're not bad people, to get to your personal legend.
Completely. For the longest time, my biggest downfall was that I could see people's good heart and I could see their potential, and I didn't want to accept that they were never going to live up to their potential. And it is not my responsibility to make somebody, live up to their potential. And if they're not gonna become that, or even take steps to stride towards that, then I have no room for them in my life.
So think about it from this angle. As a coach, I have to every day witness hundreds of people come into my life onto the mats, and I see potential in every single one of them. And then I have to fight the challenge of I can't give up on people because I know the potential's there.
Yeah.
And even when they over and over don't reach the standards that are right in front of them that I know is there, it is like, because it's who I am to the deepest levels of my being, that I have to go, you know what? I'm going to continue to treat this person as the person that will climb Mount Everest one day, even if every time they step out of the car, they say it's too cold and they get back in the car, or they start walking and then they make an excuse. Well, James, I forgot my Game Boy and I can't go without my game. And then they go back and then they go forward. And you know what? There's a beauty in the fact that if you just always give people your best, that are in front of you, you're going to get the best result from it. You know what I mean? And while you're on the journey, people, step away from the people that are not bringing you up. You know, step away. It's not because they're bad. It's not even because they deserve it. It might hurt them. You might be their only friend.
Yep.
You might be their codependent relationship.
Yep.
You might be their crutch. You know what? I'm here to tell you, step away. Make them realize they don't actually need crutches.
Yep.
Crutches are really convenient. You can just oh my God, my legs don't have to work at all. This is really, if you want to do a metaphor, sit in a motorized wheelchair. It's easier to drive yourself around like this than to walk.
Oh, completely.
But what's better for you?
Oh, I can tell you many times I've been the crutch. I've also been the person that gets out of the car and gets right back in. I know that I've frustrated you in the past. I know that there's been time periods where I haven't been my best self. And I also know that at times I've been, I've had somebody pull me back into the car, whether I want to get out and climb to the top or not. I will get back into the car for somebody else, and I've had to change that about me. I'm a very nice person. I have a big heart, and I care a lot for everybody. So having to really become selfish has been a huge, it's been a huge obstacle for me.
I'll tell you right now, though, she just touched on a phenomenal point. Be selfish. Listen to these words. No, I'm serious. Be selfish, especially when you are on your journey. Because if you can unlock the full potential of you as a human being in this life, the amount that you will give back and inspire and motivate and bring other people up is so much greater than the tiny bit of time that you didn't want to be selfish and hurt somebody at one point in time. Be selfish.
Oh, completely.
You have to love yourself first to then radiate that energy for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, man, when you're thinking in your life, I know what the right decision is, but I don't want to be selfish. Be selfish.
Yes. For the longest time, I'd put other people ahead of me. But the simple facts are, I don't have a kid. I don't have a husband. Right now, it's about Alesha Zappitella and creating my legacy, making it to my destiny.
You actually said something earlier in the podcast that is going to make that so much better, because you said, as I continue to level up, I find myself being surrounded by a much higher level of people. So maybe what it was is Alesha's start at the beginning of Mount Everest. She was looking for the man down here that was the correct answer to enhance her life further. When really he's been chilling up by the peak of Mount Everest, yelling down, giving out some clues like, "Hey,
just climb,
just keep climbing." And the guy down here is like, "No, just get back in the car because it's cold."
Yeah.
You
exactly
go on the journey. Yeah. So you know what I mean? So because it might, the fear of I don't have those things yet. I know this girl that's 18 years old that's already married with a kid.
Yeah.
She married the person at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you can't find your high school sweetheart at a young age. It's possible, for sure. But overall, do not forget to go on your journey.
Completely, yeah.
Because you settled early on.
Yes. And yeah, that's actually a struggle that I'm still like kind of dealing with. Like over the weekend, I actually went through a little bit of like some personal, like people were telling me Happy Mother's Day out of nowhere for no reason. And it kind of pissed me off because like I'm not a mother yet, but I want to be. And I am putting my career first because I know that I haven't found, that time hasn't come yet. I haven't found that opportunity yet.
You're still climbing your Everest.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But
Yep.
the beautiful thing is when you come back down, that valley, for as much as you'll love the peak, that beautiful, let's call it a beach. When you're sitting on that beautiful beach now, you will appreciate that as much as you appreciated this. But we gotta finish the climb.
Yeah. And I will be so much happier with my life if I finish the climb and if I keep chasing down every single dream along the way.
They always say at the end of people's lives, the number one thing that elderly people talk about is the things that they did not do. Not the things, not the mistakes they made, not the pain that they felt. They talked about the things that they wish from their heart that they would have done. You're not going to have a lot of that.
No, I don't think there's anything that I've wanted to do that I haven't done. For the longest time, I had this dream of just getting in my car and leaving. So after my title fight, that's exactly what I did. I didn't have a lease. I didn't have a place to stay. I had packed up all my stuff, put it at my parents' house. I got in my car, and I traveled half the country. People were giving me some shit because it's COVID. Like, oh, are you afraid? I'm not afraid of that. No. Right now is my time. I just achieved a goal that I've set for myself, and I'm going to go tackle another one. And I had also had people up until that point that told me, like, you're too codependent. You're too reliant on everything else around you. You're going to get in that car and turn right back around within a week. Yeah, you know what? It was the most freeing experience of my life.
Guys, do your fucking homework. How many times are you going to tell her you're not going to be able to do this before you realize you're just motivating her? Do your homework. Like this is really, it's amazing where this podcast has gone. But this is the information, the life lessons, the conversations that our teachers should be having with children.
Yes.
Like, I don't give a shit if you can recite who won the battle of whoever versus whoever, yada, yada, yada. You need to figure out how to be a healthy, functioning human being.
Yes.
So like school districts, if you are trying to make profound change on your children, start figuring out how to teach them the skills to make them go on their journey.
Yes.
So like the book The Alchemist is it is literally a blueprint for how to chase your dreams in life. And there are many other tools, but it's like, I feel like I said, we regressed mentally as a society. We need to get back to more things like this. Yeah. These type of conversations, if parents had this with children, instead of the fear mentality of if you don't do this, you're not going to get this, then you're not going to get a job and you're not going to be able to pay your bills and you're going to be a loser and you're not going to be in society. And why would you up and leave your responsibility and go on a road trip? Like, that's stupid. This is a old style of thinking, or maybe it's a modern, maybe they weren't like this in the past, but in my opinion, this type of fear brainwashing into children that like, well, what if Susie walking down the road doesn't like you if you don't dress this way and do this thing and have this degree, and did you go to college? If you didn't go to college, you're an idiot. And we need to get rid of all this, and we need to say your personal legend is yours to create.
Yes.
Your consciousness, if it desires something in this life, it desires experience, it desires whatever it wants. Seek it.
Yeah.
Chase it.
Yes.
Regardless of how many times you fall down, like go chase that white rabbit.
Yeah. I actually love that you brought up The Alchemist. That is my favorite book ever. You can read all the self-help books you want. At the end of the day, honestly, they all say the same thing. The Alchemist tells you everything that you need to know. And then bringing up about schools. I actually used to work at a school. I used to work with special needs students, and my biggest goal was not to, it had nothing to do with actually teaching them. I would teach them what they needed to learn. I had full faith that these kids were going to learn everything that they needed to learn. And I knew that the kids that I taught in particular would have different challenges in life. So my goal was to empower them and help them find what they truly love in life. And to show them that they need to chase that down without a care in the world, no matter what anybody else tells them. I actually told my story several times at the school. One of the teachers wanted me to stand up and, give a speech about a lot of the things that I had gone through. And I know that I inspired so many little girls and little boys that were there to just chase their dreams. And I wish that these were things that were spoken on more, just daily.
And I can see it in your eyes. It makes you emotional because you remember being that young girl that although you made it, you had to go through all the pain of all the people that told you you're not enough.
Yeah. It actually kind of still, like, one of the little girls at the academy went to buy wrestling shoes the other day, and the guy who sold the wrestling shoes to her said, "Girls don't wrestle." And her mom looked at them, told them all about me.
100%. Like, these are unhealthy things in society. But you just got to break free from those chains. The same way you and I disconnected from media and say whatever the hell you want. Someone was saying to me that Joe Biden put up a tweet yesterday and was like, "Did you see it?" No, I didn't. And honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care when Trump was in office, and I don't care when Biden was in office because I focus on my life. I focus on the things that I can control.
Yes.
My identity is not attached to, I hate Donald Trump, or I love Joe Biden, or I hate Joe Biden, or I love Donald Trump.
Yes.
You're distracted.
Yes.
That's not your journey. Okay. And like, we also have to separate information from intelligence because we have this weird thing now where people have disempowered themselves so bad where if they don't have information, they deem themselves not intelligent. And they're like, well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't possibly question anything that's going on that a doctor said because I'm not a doctor. And it's like, listen, intelligence and information are completely different. You may know multiple facts that I don't know. That does not make you more intelligent than me. Intelligence is the ability to have new challenges and problems and adapt and change and come up with solutions based on those problems. And then on top of that, there's emotional intelligence. There's the way that, like, how I relate to the world around me, because me as a coach, I have to be extremely good with my intelligence, but also with my emotional intelligence to be able to, I'm not just trying to create an athlete. Like if I had two athletes, they both knew how to throw an arm bar. Okay, then I've used my intelligence to convey complex information to get them both to understand an arm bar. But if one of these athletes, I trained in a way that I was emotionally intelligent with them and built them up and inspired them and made them see potential within themselves, this athlete will believe that they will hit that arm bar when it matters. This athlete only knows how to do a technique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we need to start understanding these different things.
I completely agree with that. That's actually something that I've recently had to overcome within myself. So I grew up thinking that I was not intelligent. I thought that I was stupid. I thought that I was ugly. I thought that I was all these things that other people had told me that I was countless times. So just because I'm not, like, in a classroom, that's not my thing. I'm an intelligent person. If I can replicate any body movement that I see, and I'm very intelligent about many different subjects. I've read many books. I can have a conversation about almost anything and it be intelligent. So I've had to find out or figure out that, like, intelligent isn't book smart. Just because I'm a college dropout does not mean that I'm stupid. It does not mean that I'm never going to be anything in life. It means that I found my path in life and I broke free from the system and I am creating my own legacy, my own path. And honestly, I'm going to end up further than anybody else that was around me that has just followed the system.
Yeah, the super intelligent people that got straight A's and were told what little good boys and girls they were, that now work jobs that they hate, that work for a company that doesn't give a shit about them, that are not following their personal legend, that are not really finding true fulfillment in their life. Which is more intelligent?
Oh, completely. The one that is following their personal legend, the one that is creating a path. And, the people who go to college and they get the regular 9 to 5, they might have some help the universe or help the world in some small way, but like every single person that is following their personal legend, they're fulfilling the reason why they were put on this earth, they are fulfilling everything that makes their heart happy, and their light is going to shine brighter. They're going to inspire so many other people that are around them, and these are things that I had to find and accept within myself.
100%, Alesha. And it's like that old quote that says, people don't remember what you say, but they remember the way that you made them feel.
Yes.
And that's the idea, is like, listen, if we could do a whole podcast just on the school system alone, but it's like the standardized school system in this country is better at destroying people's belief in themselves than it is at producing healthy, functioning human beings. In my opinion, it does a better job at telling you suck than in inspiring. Like, do you ever see the funny meme where it's like there's a teacher with a desk and it has a fish and like a monkey and like an elephant standing, and they're waiting on the teacher, and the teacher says, to figure out who's the most intelligent, we're going to have you all climb this tree. It's like, intelligence is such a fluid, wide variety, all encompassing parts of life thing that, like, just because you were bad at taking tests, that has nothing to do with your potential. Just because you took longer to learn information when it was written on a chalkboard, that has nothing to do with your potential. Some of the most unintelligent people by society standards have gone on to be the most successful people. Like, my favorite speaker of all time was Les Brown, and he talks about, he was labeled educable mentally retarded, EMR. They told him his whole life, you're EMR, you're not going to be anything. I think in one story he says that he was encouraged to get a job as like a garbage man, and like, that would be really good for you. Like, if you can get to there, like, that would be a good accomplishment. Yeah. He goes on to speak for like IBM, Apple, like all over the world as one of the most successful motivational speakers ever. Buys his mom a house, and like, this is a man that at one point in time, our system was saying, you're EMR, you're an idiot, you're so stupid, you can't learn anything. If you end up being a garbage man, congratulations. So our school system, in my opinion, is destroying, and maybe, you want to get into some conspiracy, maybe by design, is destroying divergent thinking, is destroying critical thinking, is destroying potential in children, because if everyone saw potential within themselves, the system itself would have to change.
Yes, I fully believe that, because now the standards at school that you learn how to take a test, you learn the answers to the test, you don't actually learn. I actually love that you got into that, because I fully believe that. And like, working with the type of kids that I worked with, these kids are very intelligent. Just because they can't learn like the way that you do math, they can go on a computer and they can create almost anything. And so intelligence is all encompassing, and the way that different minds work is actually like, it's so interesting to me to see like like the different processes, and like, because I know that my mind, it works like a puzzle. I can see the whole thing done before it is even done. If you show me one little piece, I know exactly where it goes. That's not how most people's minds work. They have to think very analytically. They'll look at it and they'll be like, this goes here. But I can see the whole thing done.
So yeah, literally, if we're trying to create a better system for creating human potential, we need to start over. Like, the school system was great for producing factory workers. Yes. Like get educated to a point where like you can do some basic math, handle some super meaningless task, show up every day, which, I mean, really, the way you go to school, you show up every day, you listen to an authority figure, you do what you're told, you answer, you get told yes or no, whether you're right or wrong. If you are disobedient, or if you in any way break the mold, you are disciplined for it. You know what I mean? Like, insubordination. I remember I got that. I was told multiple times that I was insubordinate. And then I remember the first time I ever heard it. Like, the teacher looked at me and said, I'm writing you up for insubordination. And like, I'm always been a curious kid. So I was like, oh, I'm going to research that. What is insubordination? And it was deferring. Like, I was basically breaking from the rules and the guidelines that were set. Like, I was being a nonconformist, right? And just because I was doing things my way, it was considered insubordination. And then all of a sudden I started taking pride in that. I was like, wait a second. Why do I want to be like everybody else? I am James Gray. I am this person. James Gray is only my name. I'm this consciousness experiencing itself, trying to figure out what fills me up, what makes me tick, what makes me really desire life. So it's like, in a weird way, their attempt to kind of destroy me, being like, you loser, made me like, hell yeah, I'm insubordinate. If you have a dumb system, I'm going to question it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of did the same thing for me, really. It's funny because in school I was such a rule follower. I never even had a detention. I did everything by the books, but everything outside of that, I kind of really created my own path. I wish that schools would challenge kids to see their potential and see like the things that they can do and more learn the things that interest them. The older that I've gotten, I've figured out that I'm kind of circling back to my interests really they've always been there since I was a little kid. Like the things that I was interested in then, I'm learning more about now, just at a higher, level.
I read this one story of, I think it was a ballet dancer or something like that, where a therapist came over to try to help this kid because she was doing so bad in school. Like the teacher would be teaching and she's just, blah, blah, couldn't pay attention, was doing absolutely awful. And the therapist went to the parents' house to sit down with this girl to try to understand what's going on. And he said, hey, put her in a room alone and let's check on her in like 15 minutes. And he said they put her in the room and then like within a couple minutes the girl was up, moving around, wanting to do all these things, And the therapist says to the parents that like, you have a dancer on your hands. Like, do you have her in dance classes or gymnastics or something? Like, look at how bad this child just wants to move, right? So, of course, if you stick her in a seat, you tell her to be silent, pay attention to what you're being force-fed, take in this information, regurgitate it on a test, we'll tell you that you're doing a good job, and that kid's spirit is screaming.
Yes.
Can I please go outside?
Yes.
Can I move around?
Oh,
and she ended up going on to be like this incredible dancer. And it's like, that's where when we're seeking human potential, we would search for ways to inspire, to motivate, to show people potential within themselves and light within themselves. But if we were searching for conformity and by the book and obedience to authority, we would do it the way we have now. So here's what I would say is I doubt there's going to be extreme radical change in a quick period.
Yes.
But parenting and influential people can absolutely steer people to see through the illusion. So even if you're like, you know what, I can't pull my kid out of public school and I just right now I can't homeschool, but I do want my child to grow up to be a James or an Alesha or someone that strives for more in life. You need to start having these deep conversations with people that like your teacher is not infallible. Your teacher was drunk at the bar last Friday night making horrible choices. Your teacher... There's all kind of things. So you have to see through illusions and understand if I have to be in this system, I'll take it for what it is, but I need to find out who I am. And I need to find out what I'm meant to be in this life.
Yes, and I think that not taking anything that anyone else thinks of you to heart is a major lesson that needs to be taught at a young age. I know that when I was in school, I was so beaten down. I thought, like I said, I thought that I was unintelligent. Sometimes I would, I'd be in an advanced class or college level class, and I would walk in, and other students I don't convey that I'm intelligent at all. They would ask me why are you here? Well, because if you don't realize, I have very good grades. I'm very smart. But then it got to the point where by my senior year, I dropped out of I hated hearing that. I wanted nothing to do with those smart kids that knew everything in the books and that would just give me attitude. Why are you here? Because I'm smart enough to be here. So I dropped out and I went to regular classes where the kids were nicer and apparently I fit.
And people, look in the mirror. If that's you and you're intelligent, in my opinion, you're not very intelligent at all if you don't know that that's the way you shouldn't treat people that way. To me, I think you're an idiot. I don't care how book smart you are. If you treat human beings that way, that tells me your actual intelligence is very low and you're so insecure that you attach your self-worth to your information. I'm smart, so that means I'm worth something, and you're not as smart as me, right? So that means I'm better than you.
Right.
This garbage. In my opinion, you're not very intelligent at all, and I would tell you to your face. You know what I mean? Intelligence, you should be able to adapt to so many things in life. And if you can't figure out, you're either just a bad person then at that point, or you're not intelligent enough to look at your own actions in life and reflect on the fact that if I'm this intelligent person, why would I be treating someone who I barely know in this state? I'm either a bad person or I'm not very smart.
Yep.
And I'm claiming to be smart. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of conversations that people need to have, but it all starts from within.
It does. It all starts from within, and then the environment that we grow up in is very important.
And right now in society, we are so taught to look up to other people instead of to empower ourselves, like the television icons or these people. Like, I bet you those same smart people that made you feel like nothing in that moment in time, if they ran into you now, oh my God, Alesha, you're a world champion. I saw you on television. Oh my God.
That's exactly how it is. I hate going, I love going home to see my family. I hate going out. I hate going out to public places. I hate running into people that I grew up with because I know how they treated me. I know everything that they said about me. And I know who I am now. And I know the lies that they're telling me. Like, oh, I always knew that you were going to be great. Like, you are such a liar. Like, now you believe in me. I don't really care.
Exactly. So it's like, wait a second. Before, I wasn't up to your standard. You hold your self-worth to your intelligence or maybe the money in your bank account or any of these things. And when I'm not up to your standard, I'm not good enough. And you don't care about me as a person. You don't care enough about even yourself to treat me kindly.
Yeah.
But now that I am someone, now that I'm on your television on Friday night and I got a gold strap around my waist that I'm on my journey to Mount Everest, now all of a sudden I'm acceptable. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like so much of that is just based in insecurity. You know what I mean? And if we can start getting children to be psychologically healthier, a lot of these things would go away because they would realize like kindness should come first.
Yes.
Regardless of someone, if they drive up in a Dodge Neon or a Rolls Royce, I'm going to be kind to the human being. Yeah. Regardless of whether we have a new gentleman that just joined the class out here tonight. You can tell he's never done any martial arts. He's a little socially awkward. Man, he's a nice guy. I treat him with respect. Yes. I'm going to help that man the same way I would help if Michael Chiesa walked back in the building and I go, holy fuck, that's a UFC guy and I'm good friends with him. You know what I mean? Mike's a phenomenal guy. Be a good person first. And if you want to tell me you're intelligent, show me you can treat people the right way. If you can't treat people the right way, I don't think you're that intelligent because you would figure that shit out. It's a 5-year-old knows to treat people the right way. So you're so smart, you can't figure that out?
Yeah, completely. I treat everybody exactly the same. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how much money they do or don't have. It could be a bum on the street. You could be the richest person. I'm going to treat them with the same respect.
Because it's a reflection of you. Think about that. It's not about people that don't understand that. Like, yeah, well, if they're an asshole, I'm going to treat them like they're an asshole. You're just then reinstilling to the fact of that, to that person that the world is hostile, that they need to be more angry. That person probably lacks love in their life. They probably lack inspiration. They probably lack a lot of these things. They probably had people that bullied them their whole life the way that people did to you, and they never overcame it. So, of course, they're an asshole now. You know what that person actually needs is someone to treat them like a human being. Yeah. Someone to treat them like, you know what, your life still matters. You might, and I might look at people right now and go, man, like, you're not a good person right now. But it's still, because of who I am, it is my duty to still try to be better to you. Yep. And maybe one day that asshole sits up in bed and goes, maybe life isn't as bad as I'm making it to be. And then that's them getting out of the car.
Yes. And you never know the amount of power that even a simple statement or a simple smile can have on somebody's life. So,
and the last thing we'll say on this topic is now more than ever too, the amount of hatred and anger and frustration that is in our society. You see it everywhere. That's why people are so outraged all the time, and they're so fucking angry, and they're looking for someone to demonize. Look inward. Yes. Look inward. If you are going out of your way to try to tear other human beings down, you're fucked up. And you know what? It's okay to be fucked up. And it might not even be your fault that you're fucked up. Yes. But you need to look in the mirror and be like, why am I being this type of human being? And there's only one of two answers. There's either a lot of damage and trauma and shit that you need to work through, and or you're literally not a good human being at the core. Because, I mean, some people at the I would like to believe that all human beings on this earth at the core, beyond whatever took place, are good. But maybe there are evil people
Yeah.
that just flat out like to see the world burn.
Yeah. Same. I like to believe that I like to believe that everybody is a good person, and I like to believe in everybody's potential. But honestly, there are some people that I've met that, at the end of the day, I think there's just some bad people in this world, and gotta just completely look the other way.
It's like the tiniest little spark of good might be in there, and it's trying to turn into a flame like we see today in you, but it is buried under so much debris that they don't even care to throw more trash on the pile. That's like a good way to look at it. Like there's so much trash on the pile that you never think that'll be a flame again. You've let the flame go out in your heart, so you're just stacking the trash up, being like, whatever.
Yes.
There's no fire there.
Yes.
But there could be.
There could be.
But it would be a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of heavy lifting, and you're going to have to get that shit off the fire. You know what I mean?
Yes, but doing all that heavy work is so worth it. Doing all of that heavy work has changed my life around, and I am a better person than I could ever even begin to think that I ever would have been. And really working through all of my traumas and everything that has bogged me down in the past. And even if there's nothing that I can do to change it, if I look at it from the best point of view that I can possibly live by, then I am going to live by that, because that's what's going to serve me the best.
Honestly, until we can create a time machine, what has happened has happened. And you know what? It might just be all around shit.
Yeah.
But if you pull the right lessons from it, if you frame the perspective correctly, you can at least start to let it go. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when you cling on to it still, you cling on the way that you felt in that moment, you cling on to that damaging event, you cling on the way that person took advantage of you or hurt you, you're going to be stuck in that forever until you let go. Yes. And you have to let go. It's for you. Yeah. Because otherwise, to some degree, that person still has a control over your life. That shouldn't be the case. No. You need to let go. You need to move forward. You need to put your face bright into the sunshine, stand in the light, and go, this is the past. It's like when we were children, one of my favorite Disney characters ever was Rafiki from The Lion King. I love Rafiki, man. I'm telling you what, he's the man. When he smacks Simba on the head, and he says, yes, why'd you hit me? The past can hurt, and you can either run from it or learn from it. Yes. You know what I mean? And it's such a good moment in that movie. And it was like Rafiki was like the Buddhist view, whacking him on the head and being like, it doesn't matter. It's in the past. That's his opening line. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. Yeah, but it hurts. Yeah, the past can hurt. You know what I mean? And then he winds up the stick again. Because that's like how life works. If you go into a trauma and you don't fix what caused it, or even if maybe when you're a child it happens to you and it wasn't even your fault at all. Yeah. But if you don't get to a healthier state, you're going to run into more traumas and more trauma. That's why most people that go in an abusive relationship find another and another and another. They find it because that is who they are.
That's their comfort zone, and that's what they're going to accept. And until they can learn to to get past that and realize that they deserve good, and that every bad thing that happened to them or maybe that they've done isn't who they are and it doesn't define them, then it's just going to keep happening and they're going to just keep attracting it.
Well, girl, this podcast, first of all, we started with your fight, but holy shit. I'm telling you right now, I think if this gets to the right audience, this is going to blow up. These are the conversations that people need to have. And we got to have a very deep one today. And if I have Tabitha at 1 o'clock. If I didn't have Tabitha in 1 minute, because we're almost at an hour and a half. We're at a feature film. We're at a full length movie, Alesha. We would just keep going. But you know what? Maybe even after the fight and stuff, we get you to come back on the podcast and we just talk more about life, because this was spectacular. So thank you for being here with me today. The last thing I want you to do is just shout out how people can follow you. If someone watched this and said, you know what, I want to sponsor that woman, I want to back that woman, I want her to represent our brand, I want to give her a chance at broadcasting, how do they reach out to you? Go over the details of your fight one more time, and then we'll wrap this up. So on May 21st, I am fighting Jessica Delboni. I am defending my atomweight world title for Invicta FC. You can watch it on Access TV, you can watch it on Facebook, you can watch it on YouTube. And you can follow me at Alesha Zapp on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
TikTok, and then on YouTube, you can find me at youtube.com/halfpint6. And if you want to reach out to me, the best way to get a hold of me is either through Facebook or Instagram.
And again, if you haven't subscribed to her on YouTube, do it. And then if you didn't subscribe to me and you listen to this whole interview, I'm so disappointed. I'm disappointed. So thank you again, Alesha, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Thank you.